Now we go to the examples of propositions of fact. For example, this house believes that coronavirus is Chinese biological weapon. Okay, in these kinds of propositions, you need data that prove coronavirus is weapon, biological weapons from Chinese. You need expert, whether experts about philology, experts especially about the politics and the economics, showing that there is a interest of Chinese to develop this kind of virus. Okay, you need to prove that China have, for example, laboratoriums that developing the virus, etc. Next, for example, this house believes that coronavirus is very deadly one. Okay, to prove it, you need lots of data. You need lots of expert, especially virologists, that saying that this virus is deadly. You need a statistic from the WHO. You need statistic from the government, especially the Ministry of Health. This house believes that coronavirus is the major cause of Indonesian rupiah's devaluations to US dollar. Also, these motions needs to be proved with the data, with the measure kinds of objective measure, objective proof, give a statistics, etc. This house believes that Indonesia will suffer from greater economic crisis than the one in 1998. Okay, same here. You need objective analysis made by the economists that says the economists or the experts of economy will say that Indonesia will suffer greatest crisis than 1998 because blah 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 blah. Okay. Now we go to another motion or proposition. We call it as a proposition of value. Proposition of value here is propositions that about something is or is not inherent value. So it is about whether your it is different from the propositions of fact. In proposition of fact is based on the objective statement. It's based on the objective proof. It must be valid. While in a proposition of value, you don't have to do that. All you got to do just say what your belief, what you know. Okay, so you didn't have to support it with the statistic or with the expert. No, because it is about the belief. It is about the opinion. Yeah. So that's why we call it also a subjective opinion. You need a subjective opinion. So there is no right or no wrong because it tends to be subjective. And then all you got to do is to support your subjective opinion with evidence. Okay. Next. So here in motions of value or proposition of value, you need to give a good definition first. Okay, you need to give good definition first. You can give a definition in a general, or you can give definitions from the contextual definitions. Next, providing a standard of measurements or criteria. So here you also need a criteria. For examples, when the motion is about, for example, the motion is Indonesian sinetron, For example, it's about your opinions that online learning is boring, for example, than the offline learning atau offline class. Okay. Boring here is a kind of subjective opinion. To talk about boring, you need a criteria. Okay. What is the criteria of boring? For example, you give the criteria like no interaction. For example, boring is when there is no interaction between students, when there is no when we cannot talk to other students, when we cannot for example interact with the lecturer directly, etc. Okay, you need criteria to prove the values. Next, you have to provide enough proof. Okay, yeah, for example, so and we talks about the online learning. You give a proof that, for example, lots of student borings in online learning. It is proof from that the student are cheating, that the students are, for example, they complaining, lot of your friend complaining, example like that. You can use that as your proof. Yep. Now the example of proposition of value. This house believed that Suharto is the best Indonesian president of all. So in this motion, you need to give a definition first about the best president. What is best president? Okay, and give the criteria. Yeah, criteria of a best president. Yeah, what is the criteria of best president? For example, the best president is the president who did not have debt to other country. The good president is the president who can build infrastructure for the people, for example, like that. Okay. Now, after that, you give a proof. Yeah. For example, when you say that good president can build infrastructure for the people, this is proof by, for example, you say that President Suharto is the best. Yeah. And that President Suharto during his leader, he leads Indonesians. He can build lots of things in Indonesia, for example, like that. Okay. Next, this house believes that science fiction bring more harms than good. Here, you have to give the definition first about science fiction. Yeah, clear definition about science fiction, which belongs to science fiction, which is not belongs to science fiction, and then give the criteria of harmful here. What is considered as harmful things? What is not harmful? Okay. Next, the last is the motions of policy or the propositions of a policy. Proposition of policy is something should be done or action by the government, international organizations, or the individual. It's about the action that we need to do something to change the condition. That is the policy. Okay. So if action were taken, would the result be desirable? Okay. You need to think it that when you make an argument, you have to think that whether these kinds of propositions will give a good result. Okay. Whether these kinds of action will lead to the good result as the proposed. Okay. Next, the stock issues. You need to here in motions of the policy, you need to explain about what is the disadvantage what will happen, what something harmful will happen if we don't take this action. Okay, and then go to significance. What is the significance of this action, this change? And inherency, plan, advantages, and don't forget the solvency, also the solutions. Okay, so imagine that you are part of the parliament, and you have to, for example, deals with the coronavirus, coronavirus outbreak, and then you propose an action, you propose the program to solve the coronavirus outbreak. You need to propose something, an action that can prevent coronavirus outbreak, or that can lessen the death of coronavirus. Like the motions or policies like that you need to do something to change the conditions. Next, you need a plan. A plan here means you need a good arrangement of plans. Okay, in the arrangements of plan here, you have to be clear who is the agent of actions, who will do it, and then the mandate, what is the function or what is the task of the agent here, and then financing, who give the money, who supports the financials, and then the enforcement, who will for example evaluate it, who will enforce it, who will for example if something happen, who is in charge, etc. Next. Now here in the policy, different from fact and value, in the motions of policy or proposition of the policy, you need not just the fact, you need expert, you need statistic, etc. Also you need the values, you need the, for example here, when you want to make sure that this program is good for handling your coronavirus outbreaks, you need to give the data that coronavirus is deadly. You need to give a fact statistic that coronavirus is very deadly. So we need the immediate program to lessen or to lower the number of deaf people. And then also you need the value here. For example, coronavirus also harms, for example, give much disadvantage for the doctor. The doctor cannot see the children or their wife or their husband, and it's about the tragedy of humanity. Yeah? You need to do the program because yes, it's about the human. Here you also give the proof evidence that is also subjective, not just objective but also subjective. So that's why this kinds of propositions is more difficult than the previous, because in the previous, for example, proposition of fact, you just need an objective statements, valid measurements, supported by the statistic, by the expert. In the proposition of value, you need just the saying about what you believe to be true, and then the proof that your belief is true, your subjective opinion is true. While in the proposition of fact, you need both. You need fact and you need value. Okay. So when you want to have a good propositions, good arguments in this kinds of propositions, you need models. Yeah. So for example, you propose a program, you need the models, how to implement these kinds of program, and then you need the relevant details. who will do this program, who are in charge, who are responsible of this program, and then what here, for example, when you want to have you solve the coronavirus, what the things you need, yeah, to undergoes this kinds of program, and then how to do your program, who pay for it, etc. So you need the detail. Then build the model anticipating the opposition arguments. Yeah, you also need to think about the models to anticipate the opposition's arguments. And then the last, show the model address the problem and reduce it. Show the solution, show the effectivity, so that this kinds of program is effective, okay, to solve the problem or to reduce the problem. Okay, for examples of the propositional policy is this house would set prisoner free due to the coronavirus outbreak. Okay. We know that in Indonesia, the Minister of Law, Yasona Lawli, have a program to release the prisoners. If I'm not mistaken, it's almost 30,000, more than 30,000 prisoners are set free. Here, when you are in the position of Yasona Lawli here, you have to give the good explanations of your plan, give the models, how to do, how to release it, because it will be risky to release. For example, you need a plan to choose who can be set out or set free. Not all the prisoners. You need the criteria of those who can get these kinds of what we call as assimilations, who can get go out to the prisons, from the prisons. Okay, and then you need to give a details. Okay, who will do this? What is the actions to do it? For example, when it will be done by the ministry, you need the policy first. You need to issue a regulation first, and then the regulation here will be implemented by all of the prisons, and it is the leader or the head of the prisons will be in charge on it. Okay, etc., etc. Okay. And the last, you also give that setting the prisoner free here with some criteria, of course, will solve the problems of at least reduce the coronavirus victims. Okay. Another examples like this house would omit national school examination. Okay, this also the hot issues in Indonesia, because due to the coronavirus outbreaks, the Ministry of Education decided to omit the national school examinations. Yeah? As a minister or as an affirmative team, you have to build strong models of how to omit the school examinations, and the mechanism, we call also the mechanisms of omitting the national school and then on the school examination, and then give a detail who will do it, etc., etc. Okay, okay, that's all of our explanations about the